Happy St. Patrick's Day. We as you get going, and J Dog, we may hear from Dean Spiliotis, Southern New Hampshire University, earlier. Um, uh, as we get going, we're packed this morning out of the gate. But happy St. Patrick's Day. Our poll question up on X this morning at the Pulse of an H. Everything with us is the Pulse of an H. Do you think there should be more St. Patrick Day parades locally? J-Dog, you and I, and you have the green going. You got the beads on, the hat, you got the shirt. You're looking mighty Irish today. We were just talking a number of years ago, right here. I don't know if it's because of this winter. It just seemed that there was much more celebration, parades and all that for St. Patrick's Day. Is it just me, or do you feel the same?
It has nothing to do with the winter.
Well, what is it, J-Dog?
Funding.
What is it, funding?
Funding. That's all it is. It's funding. It's all about money.
Yeah, could be. It's just interesting. I remember years ago, first moving to the Seacoast, I would say 10 years ago. Dean's going to check in now. Thank you, Dean. St. Patrick's Day down in Market Square in Portsmouth. Of course, they used to have that. I don't know if it was Rira. They used to have an Irish bar downtown, right in the center of town. They still have a few. Pretty much all late, by lunchtime, all afternoon, line was out the door. Everyone was green. Everyone was St. Patrick's Day. So I'm not saying places won't be having some fun later today with the green and St. Patrick's Day. It's always fun, but it just seems like it's not the same.
Chris is going to be live at Cheers from 5 to 7 for JYY later on today and tonight to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So check that out, downtown Concord. So.
All right. We have breaking news out of the Middle East. It looks like the number one bad guy, the de facto leader, the one who was chanting not long ago, death to President Trump, is no longer with us. Israeli forces took care of that. He was really viewed as the head of the military, head of the sort of the whole thing. I don't know how it works. I'm getting confused. I am getting confused on who's really running that country. I had a really interesting interview yesterday in our studios with someone who's from Tehran, still has family there. Johan was in here explaining the Islamic State and what it's like to live there. A lot of stuff he said we're not hearing in the national news here about just how, just how bad it is there and how bad the regime is and how much they appreciate the U.S. and Israel. But Dean Spiliotis checking in early with a quick hit this morning, as he does. Southern New Hampshire University political science professor. It's been a busy day already. We're just getting going. Dean, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Jack.
So I guess, I don't know about you. If I'm feeling this way and I pay close attention to this stuff, I imagine people are really feeling the same. It's hard for me to gauge just how successful. It seems that every day we do, Israel, the U.S. does something significant. We hit a strategic site. We take out a strategic bad guy. We're making progress. But then I don't know, Dean, if it's going to come down to the Strait of Hormuz for me. When I see safe passage in there, I think we've turned the corner. But what's your take on where we're at in this? And you were joining us yesterday, but it's almost a daily update.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think there are two things going on simultaneously. On the one hand, there's clear evidence. I don't think there's any denying that the United States military has tremendously degraded Iran's capabilities in terms of ballistic missiles, nuclear capability, Air Force, Navy, infrastructure, et cetera. I mean, Iran is by far the weakest it's been in memory. There's no denying that. Their kind of leadership structure, which admittedly is opaque, seems to be a bit in disarray. It's likely that the military is calling the shots. We don't even really know what kind of shape the younger Khamenei is in now. So I think all of that is very good news in terms of the success of the military. The problem, however, is that Iran has figured out that what they are going to do is to continue this kind of asymmetric war, these kinds of sort of guerrilla actions, and so there's all this reporting of our tremendous success, but simultaneously the visuals are of this kind of regional chaos with attack in Iraq and attack in Dubai and attack in Saudi Arabia. The straits are problematic. So how all of that, the issue is that if the goal was to prevent Iran from exporting this kind of chaos and mischief and asymmetric terrorist action, they seem to still be able to do some of that. And so until that stops, it's very difficult for us to just walk away and say, okay, we won. Well, if we won, why does everything seem so chaotic over there still? Putting aside the fact that Iran is clearly the weakest it's been in many, many, many years.
Yeah. And then the other one, Dean, is the president's remarks here when asked, and we're going to hear from our own White House correspondent this morning in just a little bit. He asked the president yesterday, John Decker, questions, how quickly the president, as commander-in-chief, is going to signal that we've achieved our objectives, and when does that come? I don't think we're quite there yet, but it might be days and not weeks. I mean, certainly the markets are reacting that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are two separate issues now for President Bush and President Trump, rather.
there was a slip. That was a slip.
There's a little bit, right? I'm sort of thinking. Well, I just mentioned that there was the attack on in the Green Zone. The embassy in Baghdad was apparently hit last night. With at least one of several drones. So for Trump, he's kind of in a difficult position now because clearly we had a target list. We had a set of military objectives. And you can check all those off, and the best reporting and experts say that we're maybe a few weeks away from that being completed. But if he walks away and say, "Well, we won," and all this other sort of chaos and oil shipping issues, et cetera, is still going on, people are going to say, "Well, what's the political solution here?"
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge for him. I think, in some sense, he's kind of lost the ability to just walk away and say, "We've won" at this point.
Dean Spiliota, Southern Hampshire University, going right out of the gate this morning. Real quickly, the guest we had in our studio yesterday grew up in Tehran. He's an American now, came here. Ironically, he was in the Iranian Navy before right at the time of the revolution there, and came here to continue military stuff and work and life, and has family in America. He's voted for different presidents. He calls himself kind of an independent thinker now as an American. But someone who knows Tehran well, he said something that has not been reported yet at all. See what you think of this. In terms of the public there, I didn't realize Tehran's as big of a city population-wise as it is.
Yeah, it's huge.
8 or 9. It's like New York City, right? If you population,
right.
about 8 million.
Yep.
He said the U.S. and Israel have been telling people in Tehran, for the most part, until the worst of the bombing's over, to stay indoors, stay in your homes, don't go out. He said once the feeling there from Israel and the U.S. that it's okay for you to go out, he said, you have not seen anything yet. If you think that uprising weeks ago, the video of people, he said, when people start leaving their homes, he goes, what they do is when there's an American bomb that drops, they'll go out quickly and celebrate. You're not seeing this in the news because they want the U.S. to finish this. They want Israel to finish this. This is what he's telling me as an Iranian. And he said, when they are clear to go out and, go to the market, walk the streets again, you have not seen anything yet. And I don't know what that's going to look like and if the people left in charge can overcome that, but that's an interesting optic that could be coming.
Yeah. And I mean, one can hope that turns out to be the case. In fact, one of the two leaders that they took out overnight was apparently the head of the domestic force that is often responsible for a lot of the repression. Now, there may be others who take his place. I did hear it's very difficult to communicate with Iran because the internet access is so problematic, but there was some reporting that came out from people on the ground who said that the issue that the opposition faces is, one, obviously the fear of repression and the bombing, and those are actually two concerns. The other is that there's the organized leaders have all either been killed or they're in jail.
Right.
So it's going to really have to be spontaneous if it does happen.
And that's the only way it can, I guess. All right, thank you, Dean.
Sure thing, Jack.
All right, come back. What's going on in the Congress with this TSA pay? What is happening? This is getting beyond. It's like it's frustrating for me to even have to talk about this. Brad Card's going to go a little bit early, J-Dog. He was going to go after Decker. He's going next because I was wrong. We have a guest out of the gate at 10:08 on this on some of the other issues in Congress. But Brad's going to join us. Then John Decker, on White House correspondent. Back with Brad next.
Life is messy. Dating can be
Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Brad O'Card joining us, one of our political analysts and all-stars, actually one of the starting right wing, although the Bruins fell short last night, but it was overtime against New Jersey. It was a good game. Brad Card, and co-host of Contact Politics. Brad, I want to go to Congress. Well, I don't want to go to Congress, but I want to shift to Congress versus the Middle East. And I saw yesterday a story on Fox that Chuck Schumer's now saying Democrats want to fund Homeland Security, but has that happened? Are TSA agents still not getting paid? Are they still getting screwed over?
Hey, Jack, what Democrats have been talking about doing is funding the Department of Homeland Security, but not including ICE and CBP. And that's going to be unacceptable for Republicans. And unless they've changed their stance in the last 24 hours or so, that's where the Democrats have been. So I think that the pressure is building on them. This is getting ridiculous. You just saw a whole rash of professionals from TSA quit, leave the job. I think it was over 300. We can't afford this. This gamesmanship has to stop. And it is gamesmanship, Jack. We've talked about it before, but just to remind everybody, the two agencies within the Department of Homeland Security not affected by this shutdown are ICE and CBP. And the two agencies that Democrats forced this shutdown over was ICE and CBP. This is just ridiculous gamesmanship that the Democrats have been playing. And it really needs to stop because we're paying the price for it. And since this time, Jack, we've gone to war with Iran, and that we've seen a couple of terrorist attacks domestically with radical Islamists supporting Iran, who've committed some act in the United States. So this has got to stop. And I don't know why the Democrats are getting this passed by the media, but they're getting that passed, and it needs to stop.
Well, but why does it just keep going? I understand politics, I guess, and I understand it's very frustrating. That's why most people scratch their heads and they just get ulcers over this. And they don't understand and they get frustrated and they just go about their business because they don't have the luxury of doing what Congress does in terms of partial government shutdowns. You can't do that with your business, your home, your condominium, your rent, your mortgage. But I'm looking at this TSA thing, and it's the most singular focus I've had in a while of why Congress sucks and politics stink. And I mean that because you have people that are literally getting screwed over that are on the front line of security with overcrowded airports and people that want to hurt us during a heightened terrorism security. And these people are not getting paid. I think about 400 have now quit. So that's going to take time to train new ones. And last time I checked, they're the only line of security screening at airports, unless you have a place like Logan State Police walking around or hired security. They're the screeners. They're part of our government to go through bags, to go through scanning, to go through body scanning, to make sure the airplane's safe as best they can. And we're not paying them because of politics pointing fingers in Congress. Why this isn't lead news on World News Tonight is beyond me.
And Jack, these people also, they're not making huge money. Right? These people, a lot of them, I bet you the majority of them, really live nearly paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
So to the fact that we're putting them through this game, and it is a game that Democrats are playing, they know darn well that CBP and ICE are funded. And they get funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they're not going to be impacted. And if you want to talk about it with the Department of Homeland Security, there's been a lot of changes. Holman came in, he pulled people out of Minnesota, he's restructured a little bit within ICE. We have a new secretary who's going to be hopefully confirmed very soon. I think he's having his hearing this week, and Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. So that's a big change. They can make their point during his confirmation hearing, Democrats can make their point during the confirmation hearing. There has been significant change in process, and there will be with a new secretary coming in. So this is all just political gamesmanship that Democrats are playing, and it really is hurting the working people that Democrats always like to say that they support.
Yeah, I don't know, Brad, because the other thing too is today politics is so divisive, and people just tune out, and they should. Is no one can sit down and from the middle, commonsensically explain to me or anyone what's going on in terms of the TSA issue, like you just did. This is over politics. Homeland Security is already funded. If you don't like ICE, it has nothing to do with TSA not getting paid. And this is how this could end today. And no one's like communicating that to the American people. It's like no one is talking from the middle.
Yeah. Well, Homeland Security is not funded, but TSA, but ICE and CBP are. ICE and CBP are the two agencies that have funding. The other agencies don't. That's why they're not getting paychecks. And it's crazy. It's wrong. And this is where Democrats could easily stand up and they could say, okay, we made our point. We're also going to take our fight to the confirmation of the new incoming secretary, and they could choose to do that. But to allow this to continue is outrageous. And if, God forbid, something bad happens in an airport, they're going to own it. And it's terrible to say, but it's reality too out there. There's a lot of people in this world who would like to see the United States harmed. And that's why it's really important for us to have our top game when it comes to intelligence and our top game when it comes to the interaction, the frontline interaction, where somebody would be going through to hurt this country, which we already saw on 9/11. It was through the airports and airlines.
Yeah. All right, Brad. Anything else catching your eye before we let you get back to your St. Patrick's Day golf round?
Yeah, I wish it was golf. It's Washington, D.C. day today, and hopefully Congress will be back. They were out yesterday because of the storms that came through, so everything shut down pretty early. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully this insanity won't continue and be able to get through this. Congress is also going to have to pass a supplemental bill to help keep funding our war efforts, and that's a whole nother story that the president really needs to work on, in my opinion, in building our support worldwide. So anyway, that's what we got, Jack. Happy St. Patrick's Day, buddy.
All right. Thank you. When you come back, John Decker, our own White House correspondent. On deck next, gas prices. Strait of Hormuz, the latest in the Middle East. The number one bad guy there, taken out by the Israelis. How does that impact things? A little bit later on this morning, we're going to hear from retired State Supreme Court Justice Bobby Hans talking about an effort to help women on the judicial side with in terms of Afghanistan, and a lot more on how that works on the helping others. And we'll get an update from her and a lot more. Hey, Alexa, Google Play the Pulse of an Age. We're back in a moment.
New You're listening to Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
Tomorrow on the show in the 11 o'clock hour, author Thomas Ray, the book, Flight 47, How a Commercial Airliner Can Disappear. Like disappear. Tomorrow. J-Dog, our own White House correspondent, John Decker, is going to be checking in, and we have a lot to talk about.
Poll results and poll question as well.
Poll question this morning has to do with today. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Do you think there should be more St. Patrick's Day parades and celebrations like just a few years ago? Yes or no? J-Dog, results from yesterday. A poll question on the Pulse of an H on X.
Will TSA/Coast Guard be paid by Friday? 70% no, 30% yes.
I mean, at this point, politics standing in the way. Unbelievable. Actually, it's politically despicable. I don't think I've ever said that. Politically despicable. What's going on, the finger pointing in Congress and screwing over but it's the American public safety over politics and midterm elections. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. All this is over midterm elections, just like the first government shutdown was, the so-called Unaffordable or Affordable Care Act. All over midterm elections. Have you heard one word about COVID era tax subsidies and Affordable Care Act? Have you heard one word since October, November? Have you heard one word? I haven't. Crickets. I haven't heard a chirp on this. And we had that long government shutdown before Senators Shaheen and Hassan, kudos to them, broke ranks and joined other senators to reopen the government. I haven't heard a word about this, of the Affordable Care Act, COVID era tax subsidy. I haven't heard a word. This shutdown and threatening the security of Americans at airports is over one thing: midterm election politics or political points. That's what this is over. And you're threatening the security and safety of Americans and pointing fingers. John Decker, I never in my life, and being public policy, political in college, after studying television, radio show host, said politically despicable, but it's the only way I can describe Congress right now. But I'll leave that aside. John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Gas prices, the latest from the Middle East. Good morning, John. And you were with the president yesterday asking questions.
I was with the president in the pool yesterday. I asked questions of the president both in the morning for an event that he had in the East Room, as well as the afternoon, an event that he had in the Oval Office. And I did ask the president, how much longer can we expect gas prices to be as high as they are right now? The president, in reply to my question, did not have a definitive answer. He said, as soon as this conflict is over, gas prices will come down sharply. I'm sure that's true, but we just simply don't know how much longer this conflict will last.
Yep. All right. It's hard to get a read. It's pretty serious. We had a person yesterday, John Decker, great interview. If you ever want to, I might be able to connect him with you. I don't know. His name is Johan. He's from Tehran, lives here now as a home in New Hampshire, Iranian. His family's still there. And he talked a lot. He was actually in the Iranian Navy right about the time of the revolution, the first Ayatollah, and made some very interesting observations about the Strait of Hormuz, the targets hit, but more importantly, the public. And one thing that hasn't been reported nationally, I share this with you out of altruism here and respect.
Sure.
He said, I didn't realize how big Tehran is, about New York City population, 8 or 9 million people. Mm-hmm. He said that Israelis and the U.S. have been telling residents to really stay indoors during the targets and the missiles and the bombs. Stay indoors. Don't go out. And you look at the person Israel took out overnight, the number one bad guy who was in charge of the crackdown, ironically. And he said once they feel it's safe, once they feel the U.S. is really and Israel have hit all the targets that they're going to hit, and the regime, the Islamic State is weakened to the point, and then people start going to the streets again, he goes, you haven't seen anything. If you thought the protest, the uprising with all the people killed was something, wait until it's safe to go outdoors for the people in Tehran, and you have never, and he goes, the clerics and the people running the country know that. When they go out, I'm not saying it's going to result in anything, John, but he goes, you've never seen anything yet when millions of people take to the streets after these raids and bombings, when they feel it's safe. That will be quite a sight.
Well, I hope that would be a sight. I hope that individual that you interviewed yesterday is right on the mark. We know that there have been 500 arrests that have been taken place in Iran itself of individuals that the Iranian government views as threats to Iran's government. And so I think they're sending a very clear message to those would-be protesters. Do not even think of protesting right now. But hopefully they'll have an opportunity not only to express themselves, but perhaps down the road to have a democracy, to have a form of government where they are free to express themselves and to do all the things that we take for granted here in the United States.
John Decker, thank you, our own White House correspondent. Thank you, John. Live.
Thank you.
Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, hey, Alexa, New Hampshire, Maine, New England, worldwide, play the Pulse of NH. Benny Media, our parent company, now the largest independently owned and operated media company in all of New England. Pretty cool. Hey, we got a lot coming up. If you're interested at all in going and you're already signed up or made a reservation with our friends from Colette Travel, partnering with us at the Pulse of NH for my British Landscapes tour, that's later in October. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at our main Benny Media headquarters, and you got to be on the list, as they say, if you want to come by. It's going to be a really good meet and greet with the folks from Colette. They've been in business over 100 years, family owned and operated out of Rhode Island. They're putting this trip together and the details. They're going to be here. They're going to have images, movie type video, digital shots, pictures of the trip. I'm looking forward to a perfectly good castle in Scotland. That's what I'm looking forward to. Wales and Scotland. What a trip. And if you're interested, tomorrow night, 6 to 8 p.m., Benny Media, Concord, open house, if you will, just for the trip. And you can check it out. Go to the pulseofnh.com, pulseofnh.com, British Landscapes trip, and you can click and you can contact and call Colette and sign up to show up tomorrow night if you want. Questions answered. Andrew and the team, and I'll be there for a bit. It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm just still I think it's worth a few moments relaying more of the interview from yesterday. It was Monday, so a lot of people are just getting going. And we had really a profound live exclusive interview in our studios here on my show, Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of NH. And his first name is Johan. We're not going to say his last name. He's been in this country now for decades, if you will, but he's from Tehran. His family's still there. Some of his relatives can't get a hold of them, can't even email or text 2 days later because they've had this digital social media blackout, internet blackout there for 68 or almost 70 days. But I was sharing with a friend this morning, I wish more people of all ages, and, we have such a crappy media, social media, and political environment right now in this country. And he says it's so ironic, Johan said, from Iran, because the people here have no idea how free they are. He goes, they don't really have any idea. And I guess why should they? We take our health for granted. If you're healthy, you take your freedom for granted, and you shouldn't. But he said it's amazing. People they can say things about the president or a senator or a public official on their social media page and not get arrested and taken out behind their home and shot or locked up with no trial. But he just talked about our freedoms. And he said there's so many people that are almost protesting against America, chanting on college campuses, he said, like death to Israel, death to the U.S. And he goes, it's mind-boggling to him, fleeing Tehran when the Ayatollah and the fundamental Islamic State took over. And the other thing he brought up, which mystifies me, and we do have an interview in the 11 o'clock hour that touches upon women and young girls in Afghanistan, but he said all the people that are so passionate about, and he said women who are so involved in politics, who go to these rallies, and he said good for them if it's peaceful. But where are they on women's rights, girls' rights, women's rights in the world? Because I'll tell you, in Iran, in Tehran, since the Islamic State took over, if your wife or daughter did something contrary to what the clerics, the Ayatollah, his way or the highway did, they would be punished. They would be hurt. They would be taken from them and imprisoned. And Lord knows what would happen to them. And he said, people here don't even understand how women, he goes, they're not even third-class citizens in Iran. Their rights, all these things that we talk about here, voting, speaking, fighting for change politically. And he goes, I just don't understand why more women are not incensed at how women are treated in places like Iran by this regime at all. He goes, I just never see it. It's just weird. And he goes, it's probably because they don't know. And I think that's part of it. But the other thing is just really the freedoms that we have. And, I'll say this. I understand politics and media pretty darn well. And I understand the whole period of Iraq and trying to bring a democracy in there and weapons of mass destruction and what was moved into Syria and the whole thing with Colin Powell, the late Colin Powell, and George W. Bush, President Bush. I understand the whole thing. I was here. I understand. I kind of understand Afghanistan. I kind of understand other efforts, but we don't know yet. And what he said yesterday, Johan, was pretty remarkable. And his daughter's a medical student here now in America. And she wrote a note that she said, Dad, if you're going on his radio show, I want you to read this note from your daughter. And it was a thank you he read on my show. It was a thank you note. It wasn't political. Now, you may take it as political, and that's your problem, not mine or hers. That's your problem. This is a young woman who didn't have to grow up in that tyranny, in that awful environment of Tehran, and she's going to become a doctor and go into medical school here. This is his daughter. And she wrote a note. I don't have it in front of me because he had it with his notes. And he read it as a proud dad of a daughter who's becoming, going to medical school here. And she said, basically in the note, Dad, you have to say this if you go on Jack's show. I want to thank the American people, thank President Trump, and thank the Israeli government or the IDF for finally striking at these people who took over Iran and our freedom. And not only, her point in the letter was profound. She said, you not only, you didn't just save us in Iran, you saved Israel and the United States from a nuclear attack. That's from a young woman who's going to medical school. That's not from a representative in Congress or a U.S. Senate candidate. That's from a young woman who's going to medical school, whose family's from Tehran and Iran. You and Israel stopped a nuclear war. And what I want people to realize, and I don't see the satellite images. I know we struck last June the two sites where the uranium was being enriched in the mountains for nuclear stuff. And I know people don't know this because the average person doesn't know this. 2 weeks before the United States struck on the Saturday morning in Tehran and the Ayatollah, 2 weeks in the country of Oman, there were talks. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, there were talks with the Iranian officials to avoid this, to get them to stand down on the nuclear, stand down on the terrorist stuff, be peaceful in that part of the world. And the talks ended on Thursday. People forget this. I don't. Talks ended Thursday afternoon. Saturday morning, we woke up to the Ayatollah is dead. We bombed Tehran, and a war started in Iran. We're 2 weeks plus a day or two into this thing, and the Strait of Hormuz and what's left of the Iranian military, what's left of the terrorist or the regime running Tehran, we don't know. Last night, a really bad guy, the guy who was in charge of cracking down on the dissidents in Iran, the de facto leader of this sham of a government and the Ayatollah who's injured, who the heck knows who's running? But this guy, the Israelis took out, everyone says he was the guy running the show. He's no longer with us. And what people, again, I wish they knew their history and facts. I really do. The people that get so and that's happened to me in the last week or two. I would dare say some of the people are under 40 years old. Younger people say, Jack, what is Trump doing? Starting this war. What is he doing? Why is he doing this? And you know what I'll do sometimes to get them to step back from the plate for a moment? I'll say, do you know what country in the Middle East? I'm asking you a question. And this is a good question you can ask people. Do you know what country in the Middle East has the largest nuclear arsenal that's up to date? And it's crickets because they don't know the answer. Do you know what country in the Middle East has the largest nuclear arsenal ready to go? And they don't know the answer. And they'll say, well, is it Saudi Arabia? No. Is it Egypt? No. It's Israel. And had whichever Ayatollah and the army guard, whatever they call the military, had they gotten use of any nuclear bomb, the gentleman who was in yesterday, Johan, said the line for decades in Tehran, a city of 8 or 9 million people, by the ruling Ayatollahs, was they called Israel one bomb Israel. One bomb Israel. What that meant was in Tehran and Iran was one nuclear bomb and Israel's gone. They're obliterated. One bomb Israel. So for 47 years, the goal of the Islamic terrorist, if you will, running Iran is to obliterate Israel. Same goal of Hamas, Hezbollah, the proxy terrorist, obliterate Israel. If this regime was closer, had one nuclear bomb and fired it into Israel, the people who are wondering before we know the answer, was this worth it? The people who are wondering that before we know if this was worth it. One bomb from Tehran into Israel that was not like a drone, a nuclear bomb. And Israel sees it coming because they have the air defense system or the guard, the dome, the big dome. Israel would fire nuclear bombs into Tehran. And I got news for you. You may think you know a lot. You may think you're right. You may think I'm not right. And that's okay with me. But if that scenario happened, one bomb from Tehran into Israel, and Israel responded with nuclear, World War III. Don't have any mistake about that, would be underway. And if you think prices and the stock market's been interrupted a little bit from this operation, World War III. That would involve China, Russia, North Korea, us, U.S. Israel has the largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. Israel, not Saudi Arabia. And if Iran had fired one missile into Israel, World War III. And now they're not going to be able to do that. Now, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about much. And this isn't about President Trump or Hegseth or Secretary of State Rubio. Military's been great. That, to me, is not that bad of a thing. Some commentary, 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.
107.7.
Granite State comes to talk. This is the Pulse of New Hampshire. This is Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. J-Dog's looking pretty spiffy for St. Patrick's Day. He's got the, what's the hat? He got the green in the hat. Is that Guardians?
The Cleveland Guardians 2026 St. Patrick's Day hat, which they're going to be wearing later on today in Arizona during spring training.
And you got the shirt, you got the beads, you're all there. Are you part Irish
Yeah, some half Irish.
and French?
French, half Irish.
Which side dominates? Depends on the day.
I've always said on one side I am arrogant beyond belief, and on the other side I'm always looking for a fight. So pick your battle.
It just seems St. Patrick's Day crept up on us this year, and J-Dog corrected me earlier when I always stand to be corrected, and I think he's right. That it really has nothing to do with a real long winter here. He thinks it's just economy, funding, that we don't see more St. Patrick Day parades. It just, I was sharing earlier, Portsmouth just 9 or 10 years ago, you couldn't go down to Market Square today on St. Patrick's Day from noon on without, and get into any place that had green or Irish from the whole afternoon into the evening. It was St. Patrick's Day. I remember one year literally standing out in front of a place to get in for over an hour in the afternoon to celebrate a little green. And I don't know if it's not as many Irish pubs or bars, but a lot of places are fun to go to on St. Patrick's Day. It just seems not as, J-Dog, we don't have Manchester, the state's
Queen
largest city. They're not having a parade, right?
No parade. The Queen City, the biggest city in the state, no parade.
And did they say, I don't know why. Did they say why?
I think
Funding?
Funding. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's always a fun day. It reminds me of, why did Manchester, New Hampshire cancel the St. Patrick's Day parade? I just want to see if it's related. The 2026 New Hampshire St. Patrick's Day parade was canceled because organizers and city officials could not reach an agreement, J-Dog, on the route. And they were worried about safety concerns. I think J-Dog may be right, though. According to Manchester Link, some of the other stories, they couldn't organize a small group of they couldn't come up with a route. So for safety reasons, they canceled the St. Patrick's Day parade, the annual. How many years, I wonder, had that been going on? I always remember it.
Asked Senator Lou on Friday, former Senator Lou, about it too.
Yeah.
Manchester native. So.
It's just kind of always remember it. Manchester was fun because they have, I'm trying to think the name of it, right on Elm Street. There's a great Irish pub. I can't think of it right now. Haven't been there in a long time. St. Patrick's Day, Manchester, state's largest city, no parade. I think J-Dog is probably more right. Funding, but they say it was safety. Couldn't agree on a route. How about down Elm Street? It's pretty straight. They used to do like drag racing in the 50s on it, I heard. How about just down Elm Street? How about if you start up in the North End, up by Dick Anagnos building, or, I call it the North End, just go up that high. And then go down to the South End. Just how about Elm Street? Can't agree on a route? Just
was
do
there
it.
Last Friday. Looks good to me.
Go right down Elm Street, straight as an arrow, right, J-Dog?
Looked good
There
to
you
me
go.
on Friday when I was at SNHU Arena for the Jim Gaffigan show.
There you go. I just solved your route questions in
Problem solved. Show me the money.
Yeah,
There you
just go straight. Just what's the deal there? All right, coming up. Hey, I don't know if she's done an interview since, but Bobby Hans is was a state Supreme Court justice. I'd known her back when she was an attorney and involved in public policy, and always had a good experience. And she was, I think I used to have her on some of the political, I think close up from the Nashua area originally. Just always, and then this whole, I don't know what happened. I'm still confused. I am confused. The Supreme Court, Attorney General's office. But anyway, she came back, she retired, but there's a story about an annual International Day of Women's Judge reception on Tuesday, March 24th. And people driven from Afghanistan, speaking of the Middle East, and she's going to talk about how they're helping. That's coming up next on the Pulse of an H. See you in a moment.